6:30.
All right, we are going live in 5, 4, 3. Unmute mics. 2.
I'd like to welcome everybody and wish everyone a Happy New Year, and welcome to this regular scheduled January 8th Oscoda Township Board meeting. If we could begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Present.
Mr. Taser?
Present.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Worcester?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here. Next on our is the agenda additions. Does anybody have any additions or changes? I have one change I would like to make, and that is on the resolutions. Number 4, 2024-4. Our attorney advised that we postpone this till the next meeting so that she can be in contact with the MTA attorney because there was some question about that. So I'd like to postpone that until our next meeting.
And I have a recommendation that we include in between the resolutions 2 and 3. I realize it's under the category of resolutions, but that should resolution 2402 not pass, that we, by board action, approve the hiring of the planning zoning administrator.
Our attorney has advised that we do resolutions. So that's what.
Now, going forward?
Yeah.
We've never done that before. Why is that a change? Was there an instruction on that we missed in the email?
That's on the advice of the attorney.
When did that happen?
Well, since we got the new attorney.
Well, we've hired new people and we haven't had to do that.
And apparently we should have.
Okay.
If you would, I guess, if the board would prefer to just take action on that about the resolution, but that would be against what our attorney has advised. Our attorney drafted the resolution, so.
Well, that's fine. I'm just saying, in case we don't approve it, I want to make sure that the planning zoning administrator comes out whole finally after being, in his position for a couple months.
Sure. I would agree with that. So,
I believe we passed by resolution because then we also have the one for the citations.
yeah,
And that's
Citations?
right, that's citations, yeah.
Civil infractions.
Civil infractions.
or
So-
civil infractions.
So we will postpone the resolution 2024-4 till next meeting. So can I get a,
I asked the attorney, and she answered the question of why is it presented as a resolution, and it said since this was a matter that was discussed by the Township Board at a previous meeting, a resolution is appropriate to explain the history. Additionally, since the employee was already hired, has been working and has been paid by the township should ratify the hire so as to avoid any potential issues regarding this hire.
by a resolution?
By resolution.
Okay.
Although the only problem with that is I have a problem with that because of explaining the history, and ratification by definition means that it was done properly and it wasn't. So,
Right?
yeah.
That's not necessarily the case.
So can I get a motion to approve
It
the
is,
agenda?
actually.
With that item of postponement?
I would like to make that an action item instead of a resolution also,
Which?
for Rick's.
I thought you just said that it was advised to be a resolution.
No, it's saying that, but it's also says there's talking about the explanation of history And there's a portion in there that isn't correct history, and there's also, the ratification is not correct either.
Well, I think if our attorney advises that we do it by resolution, then I think we should do it by resolution.
Well, then we can discuss that, but
Okay.
when we get there.
So can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I would make a motion to approve the agenda with the postponement of 2024-04 until our next regular meeting.
I'll support that. Motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbark?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Next, the agenda is public comment. For this public comment, we ask that you fill out a card. We have,
Yes, I have two.
okay,
So the first is Mary Ed Tootin regarding property purchase request.
okay. If you would just state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, I am Mary Ed Tootin. I live here in Oscoda. And I have a question because I actually wanted to talk about two items, the property purchase request and resolution 2024-04. Would I be able to just go ahead and make my few comments on that tonight?
Go ahead.
Okay, very good. The parcel of property that is being voted on to sell was, I was told by Todd Dickerson, the Economic Improvement Director at the time, in the presence of Trustee Cummings, taken off the list of disposable properties pending research on whether it was needed for cemetery expansion. This was a parcel that I had been interested in building an apartment building on. May I request that you put this property back on the disposable list at this meeting and defer the vote regarding the purchase until the next board meeting. Failing to return this property to the disposable property list before it is put up for bid smacks of favoritism. Or you can simply acknowledge that the property was never off the list and explain to the assembled what the determination was about the cemetery expansion and this property, and defer the vote to sell to the next board meeting. This is transparent and allows any other interested parties an opportunity. This is what got the township into trouble with Furtaw Field, and I would not like to see a repeat of this error. It would indicate that you don't learn from your mistakes. Regarding Resolution 2024-04, it is not at all clear what you are changing. Please bring this clearly to the board and the public. I would ask the board to kick this can down the road, obviously you already are, until a very clear differentiation is done between the existing duties and what you are trying to change. Thank you.
Thank you. What was the next?
The next one is Miss Kelly Brown.
Kelly Brown.
Kelly Brown, I live in Oscoda, Michigan, as you all know, but we'll put that on the record. A couple of things. One, I'll just follow up with Mary Ed. On the resolution with regards to the superintendent making the hire, fire, and salary arrangements, I believe that's what ultimately that resolution with the November 6th, the November 13th, the back and forth. I want to say, as someone that voted for many of you, I don't want that power entrusted to anyone other than the elected officials. That is your duty. It is listed in your board protocol. I want 7 voices. I don't care if she interviews, brings the candidates to you. It's that way in any local municipality that you go to. You have a choice. And I think that power being taken away from this board is inappropriate on behalf of the citizens that elected you. With regards to the resolution, or the sale, I should say, about the property, I don't think that property and the discussion that happened 2 years ago, if there was anything further done. Have we found out if in fact, if you sell that property, can the adjacent property that you as a township sold to a Sabo Township that has a grant on it, can it be used for expansion? Has anybody done any investigation? 2 years ago that occurred. I would assume it would be a follow-up item. I asked many, many times at this podium if you could put old business on here for exactly this purpose. You now have business being brought to our township and other interested parties for business, and we don't have a clear delineation what you can and cannot do because nobody followed through. So I would again ask formally, old business be put on the agenda for township board meetings. We have investigations that have happened in prior years that are on the billables, and we've never ever heard any results from them. We've had audits on specific accounts, tax accounts. We have heard nothing, but yet as taxpayers, we have paid for the privilege of letting all of you on our behalf do these investigations. We deserve to see them. So old business is a priority and needs to be put back on this agenda. And I have asked numerous times, I am asking again publicly that it be done. With regards to the hiring of the planning and zoning director, how did that happen? We don't even have anything that says you can just hire someone and have them start working. I was talking to Jamie and Tim outside of the treasurer's office after a meeting, and the guy walked by and Jamie said, "That's your new planning and zoning director." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, how did he even get hired? We don't even know who he is. And then I read in the paper how he got hired. We have got to tighten this stuff up. This looks terrible. This is not something that should be willy-nilly. We are entrusting you, the elected 7 officials, some of you appointed into positions, whatever. You've now taken the oath of office. You need to start doing your fiduciary and your due diligence for your oath of office with regards to hiring, with regards to procedures, with regards to meetings, with regards to conduct. It is very unbecoming to watch these meetings and see what's occurring, and especially to the chair. It's disappointing. People are talking over him, people are disagreeing with him, people are interrupting him. It's unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other cards?
No.
That's it. Okay, next we move on to the consent agenda. We have the regular meeting minutes from December 11th and the special meeting minutes from December 13th.
I do have a comment about the 13th, and this was just a question. Since this was not merely a special meeting, it was actually a public hearing. I know we have public hearings for the Planning Commission and ordinance readings and that sort of thing, but I wanted to know, because this seemed to be a different nature, are we going to keep, well, are we going to keep a different kind of minutes for this one? Are we going to create anything? Because this doesn't summarize what actually occurred at the meeting. It just basically states that there was a public hearing and doesn't even include the name of the attorney that represented Jeff Lindemann. So that's one part of my question. The next part is actually has to do with our protocol that we agreed that in, let's see, let me look again. It was in the section 8.14B, we talk about the recording of meetings and removal of said meetings can immediately occur after approval of minutes. But in the very last section of that, there's a sentence that says, therefore the recording may be erased unless the recording shall be pertinent to any legal proceedings then underway, pending, or expected. So I think that qualifies that we maintain the copy of that recording. And I just wanted to bring that to our attention to make sure that it's not inadvertently overlooked.
I thought in the public hearings, any public hearing, they're supposed to actually give what the, like, people come up to the podium to talk about it, that's supposed to be recorded, like in the minutes. Their actual conversation, their topics. Not just, because I printed it again, Josh, and it says public comment presentation, but it should name the people, because they had to give their name, and then what they actually talked about during the public hearing.
And I can add that in there, but there was a lot of back and forth in that. And that was my question to the board, is it was really hard I could put, somebody would make a comment, but then someone else from the public was responding at the same time that a comment was being made. But if you guys would like, we could postpone that, and I can actually pull that up and I guess try to put it in there as best I can with that back and forth in there.
Do you have a recording of that meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, the owl recording.
I think Mr. Cummings is indicating if we could save that recording.
Yep.
I don't know how we put that into the record for posterity.
No, we don't unless we transcribe it, but this is an unusual meeting for sure, right?
Yeah, and that was the hard part there, is
Understood.
normally you would have somebody like here, you'd have them at the podium and they would do an individual comment and sit down, and then
Right.
somebody wanted to speak on that, they would be there and already announced, where in that meeting I had a lot of,
There was.
and it changed, so when I started typing it up, it was not, I guess, very cohesive as you were reading it, because there
Yeah,
was
right.
a lot of back and forth.
Totally right. Well, even in the meeting itself, frankly.
Yes.
So maybe it warrants, because it's a one-off, maybe it warrants, a court transcription service who's just going to take and do it like a court transcript. Because that's ultimately what we were kind of alleging us to be, in the sense it was a public hearing of an individual and not of an ordinance. So you might want to consider that. I don't know anything about that, but the concept, I'm sure, exists.
Well, I could do it in a couple different ways and get them out to you guys for the next meeting, and
Okay.
see what you guys think as far as what I can get out of there, and
Yeah.
back and forth. It might run with maybe an interjection instead of being divided up per person like the ordinance.
Right, sure.
So we will hold off approving the minutes for the special meeting of December 13th, pending an upgrade from our clerk. Was there any question about the regular meeting minutes from December 11th? Hearing none, if we move on to the finances, the payment of bills, we have the prepaid from December 19th of $115,361.83. The prepaids for December 26, 2023 of $310,058.25. The prepaid for January 2nd of $62,632.81. The check run for January 9th, here it says to be determined, but Mr. Sutton has provided that to the board. There's payment of bills for January 9th. And the C2R2 payments, the overpayment of tax bill report, and the 2023 investment report. Are there any questions on any of those items? If not, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Support?
I think you'll have to.
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurschenberg?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
I think, Jeremy, you have to specify withholding.
I'm sorry?
I think Jeremy needs to specify in his motion to withhold the special meeting minutes from December 13th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will alter my motion to not approve the special meeting minutes, but everything else in the consent agenda is to be approved with this motion.
And the resolution.
And then,
Well, that's part of the consent agenda, so that we don't have a separate motion on that.
2204.
The motion is for
Let's vote.
the consent agenda is for the.
oh, we're doing that and that the
Is it?
2024-04 resolution is
That
being.
was under additions.
Oh, that was under
Okay.
additions.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay.
So my motion is to approve the consent agenda minus the special hearing minutes.
Okay.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurschenberg?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the superintendent's report.
Okay, the township, through an agreement with the Air Force, has received $117,000 $911 for the slip lining of Mission Street storm sewer. Originally, it had been agreed that the pay application would have been paid directly through the Air Force, but due to a recent change, the money has been provided to the township via electronic funds transfer. Therefore, I am requesting permission from the board as a housekeeping item to pay the pay application from Pipeline Management Company in the amount of $117,911.
Do we need an account number for that to come from? Did we get deposited into some special account that we need to reference to pull it back out of?
Well, after talking to Ms. McGuire, she put it in a liability, so it can be moved to be paid.
So we just pay it and call it?
Yep, it basically went into an accounts payable account, receipted, and we'll turn right around and take it right out of that.
I make a motion to approve the payment to the Pipeline Management Company in the amount of $117,911 even.
Support? Mr. Taser? Yep. We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbar?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the match on Main.
Okay, the MEDC has once again opened the grant window for their Match on Main grant program. As a result of our RRT designation, the township, on behalf of up to 2 small businesses, are now eligible to apply for this grant. Information on the grant program is in the packet for your review. February 9th is the deadline for loan applications to the EIC. The EIC will then score all applicants and designate up to 2 businesses to apply for. The MEDC deadline is February 23rd. I would ask that the board consider approving pursuit of the MEDC Match on Main grant and accepting the businesses nominated by the EIC as the township's co-applicants when they are received.
Do we have any co-applicants already? Anyone interested?
This just opened up. It opened up on, well, actually, it's not open yet. It opens January 15th. And then the Economic Improvement Committee will then wait for applications to come in. We have not put it out yet because I wait for permission from the board to be applicants.
So we will advertise this in the paper?
Yes, and we do have an email list of all the businesses, so that will go out as well to every business that we have. And we'll put it on the website as well.
It says the EIC is going to score all the applicants based on what?
They haven't decided that yet.
So the EIC has to draw up their own guidelines on how they're going to score these businesses to be co-applicants.
It will go by there's a program description in the information that I gave out in the packet saying what the requirements are. So that's what they would go by as the requirements of the MEDC for information.
Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the pursuit of the MEDC Match on Main grant.
Support, Sutton?
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbar?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
There's already a scoring matrix in there.
Next is property purchase.
Okay, your packet contains a property purchase request from Mr. John Graham for the township-owned parcel in Oscoda Township. Approximately 2 years ago, this property was brought forward to the board requesting to pursue a zoning change from industrial to residential to allow marketing for housing. The end result was to postpone due to the need for more information for cemetery expansion. The proposal from Mr. John Graham is in your packet for review and consideration. I would like to also point out that I did review the minutes from, it was January 10, 2022, and it was not taken off the designated disposal list. The only motion made in that meeting was to postpone so the superintendent and designated staff could pursue after it was checked into. and I can read the motion, I have it right here in front of me, it was not designated non-disposable. It was just postponed. So
Were any of the studies done to see if we need to expand into that area?
if you speak to Clerk Sutton, he would like to hang on to that
yes.
property for cemetery expansion.
Yes, we do need that for cemetery expansion, and that's been a talk with Bill. We're currently waiting for the maps that we got done through Row Engineering that actually outline the cemetery and what we have currently and what space we have left, so we'll be able to bring that right down to what we have. And then that is our expansion. Now, there has been discussion when we were looking at this at the possibility of McQuaid Field, but that was purchased with some DNR funds, and also they had put in the baseball diamond and stuff with those grant funds as well. So that is something that the MDNR would allow under that, looking into it, but Asable holds that property, and because we run that cemetery between both townships, that's something we can explore in the future. But as of right now, until I get everything back from Row and everything, that property is still our extra space for the cemetery, which we are currently running out of room, so.
I guess,
No, I was just going to ask, well, then why isn't the property on the do not dispose list?
Yeah, until we had this offer come in and we looked into it, I thought we had removed it, but that was not what we had done in the motion, was just to postpone. So I would just ask the board tonight, in light of that, that we would decline that purchase request and remove that property from disposable until such time as we've made arrangements for the expansion of the cemetery to make sure we've got our space for our citizens going forward for at least the next 100 years. So.
I'm good with that. I guess my only question is, I mean, we have an interest from local business, multiple local businesses for that property to be used for commercial purposes. Do we have to build the cemetery right there, or can we use other property in the township and have an additional cemetery that might be less coveted for business purposes?
You could look at those other options, but we haven't looked at that yet because we're trying to keep it close to the cemetery, and that's why working with Asable, there may be something where we would be again connected to that. But that property at that time, if we were to do that with Asable, I guess to ask them for acreage out of that park, I would just feel that maybe in trading that property, they could decide if they wanted to sell it, because that is owned in Asable, or that may be something to hold on to where the DNR would want that given back for some purpose. So until we get through that, I wouldn't want to sell it when it may be something that the DNR or Asable would want in order to facilitate expansion in the other direction, so.
Any other comments on this? Thoughts?
Isn't it true that the DNR would trade it for cemetery property? Parks and cemeteries is really what? Yeah.
It can be used for that.
Right.
And looking into it for the MDNRT, they do parks. Cemetery is one of those accepted uses, so.
Have we, in the last 2 years, then have we reached out to Asable to try to collaborate, or?
We talked when we were working on safe routes to school about it, but I've been waiting for the maps, because currently our cemetery is all hand-drawn maps that we've collected since the beginning of the cemetery. And that's why you've seen a lot of lots coming in that have been sold back. People have been buried somewhere else when they bought them in the Air Force. So that's why we're trying to get that map and get it itemized of what we have left and where we can go from there and what our expansion will look like going forward, so it's planned. Because right now it's very difficult. You have to go into the copy room, and those 2 boxes are all hand-drawn maps of the cemetery that have been kept up to date through the years by all the clerks.
Tammy, have you spoke to Bill, what his thoughts are?
Bill would like to keep that property for cemetery expansion.
I think we should, in fact, I will make a motion to decline the offer to purchase property by Mr. John Graham and remove that property from the disposable list.
Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbart?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next is the EIT payment.
All right, the Township through the Road Commission received a TAP grant for roughly $2 million for the Oscoda Exploration Trail project. This grant requires an 80-20 split, with 20% being a local match, which the township has met. Your packet contains an invoice from the Road Commission in the amount of $13,993.55. This requires two actions. I would ask first that the board approve the payment to go towards the Iosco Exploration Trail to be paid to the Iosco County Road Commission from 101-751-880.572. And action number 2, approve appropriations to fund 101-751-880.572 in the amount of $13,993.55.
Have we received any of the payments on our various grants, our additional grants?
Not yet. Mr. Freeman has submitted and reached out to find out where those funds are.
Okay.
Because I told him I keep asking and saying it's going to be coming. I just want to know when it's coming.
Yes,
So
we have a number of grants. An MNRTF grant that was for $300,000 to cover some of these additional costs over and above what the township committed towards the project as part of our match to the TAP grant. So,
yes.
So, any questions, comments for the board?
So we're paying this, and we're supposed to get reimbursed for it, but we haven't yet.
Yes, but these are the ones that have to be paid before we get reimbursement. We have to provide copy of canceled check, everything, to get the money, so.
So I will make a motion to approve the payment of $13,993.55 to the Iosco County Road Commission for the Iosco Exploration Trail to be paid from Fund 101-751-880.572.
Support. Worcester Barth.
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Worcesterbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. The next is the appropriation. I'll make a motion to approve the appropriation to Fund 101-751-880.572 in the amount of $13,993.55.
Support, Sutton?
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next, we move on to the resolutions. First one is Resolution 2024-01, our first resolution for the year. This has to do with the designation of the depositories for holding our money, and I will turn this over to Ms. McGuire. She handles those things.
Thank you. Yep, this is basically just a housekeeping thing that we have to do every year to keep the board updated on the different financial institutions that I utilize, not only for the money that we use on a daily basis, but for investments. And it also notes in here that Huron Community Bank is our primary bank that we house all of our accounts in, except for some of the other investments.
Anybody have any questions about that? Like where I mentioned, this is something we do have to do just every year.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-01, designation of depositories.
Support, Sutton?
I have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is Resolution 2024-02. This is the resolution regarding the hiring of our planning and zoning director. Questions or comments on this?
Well, I'll go first since I stated earlier that I would have liked to have seen this just as an agenda item, just to approve Rick. Some of the things in here are accurate, some of them I don't think they are. So a resolution is pretty upstanding thing that you can't go back and change unless you have another resolution to it. So I would just like to point out a few things that I had questions about. and would like to see this actually tabled, or I would have liked to have seen just an agenda item approving Rick. I will state as part of this resolution that nobody has a problem with hiring him or any issue with that. I think this was designated in good faith to try to clarify some of the issues. But in the second section, it talks about Board Protocol 702. And that actually says in there that you have to have board approval. So, and it also, there's no mention of the Charter Act of 41.75 that says that the Township Board has to approve people being hired, which that also notes in the Protocol 702. In the second one, it says, whereas believing that her duties as Personnel Director for the Township included the authority to hire him to fill the budgeted position and placed under the informational item on November 13th of the board agenda, that is not correct. At our financial meeting that morning, Tammy had said to me, and Josh and Mr. Palmer were sitting there, and said that she had it as an action item. So she knew that it had to be approved by the board. But then after speaking with 4 board members, then she moved it to informational. And I thought that was important to have that clarification in there. Also on there, under the second page, it talks about whereas ratifying the action of the superintendent hiring Frederick Lawrence Buckner to the position of Planning and Zoning Director. That's not true. We did not ratify that. That was not done correctly. It needed to be an action item and have the board approve it. So those were my concerns, and I wanted to see those changed. I don't have a problem with it being a resolution as far as those things are being addressed, not a problem. Or I would have just rather made it as simple as just putting it on the agenda and approving them like we should have done in the first place.
Right.
Who wrote this resolution?
Our attorney.
I do have an email that that Ms. McGuire had sent to Lisa, our township attorney, and she answered those questions that Jamie just raised on this resolution. So there is a reason why she did it this way. It wasn't to hide anything, and I can
get it too.
I have it. She asked, why is this presented as a resolution? And the response was, since this was a matter that was discussed by the Township Board at a previous meeting, a resolution is appropriate to explain the history. Additionally, since the employee was already hired, has been working, and has been paid by the township should ratify the hire. That's where the ratify comes in. Ratify the hire so as to avoid any potential issues regarding this hire. And Ms. McGuire also asked why all the other communication was not in there, discussing what we had talked about during our Finance Committee meeting. And Ms. Homame's response was, I don't feel these ancillary communications are relevant for inclusion in the resolution. And then the third question was, can we just add Rick to the agenda and approve like we should have in the first place? And she refers back to question number 1. So that's the reasoning why those are not in the resolution and why the resolution was written the way it was. There's nothing to hide here, just confusion of what my duties are and what they aren't. And it doesn't matter to me which way they go. Rick is a very good employee, and I would recommend passing this so he can continue working.
Well, again, and I didn't get a chance to respond back to Lisa about it with these concerns. I figured I would just bring them up here because there was also, I received, when this first came up, when we were talking about it at a previous meeting, and Steve Oosterbarth was discussing it and talking about Tammy being the CEO and having the authority and things like that. Come to find out she did not have the authority. That's why we're trying to adjust it now to be able to do that. So the history that Lisa's talking about, explain the history, that's what the resolution is for, is to explain the resolution is appropriate to explain the history. Well, then history needs to be correct. And ratifying the superintendent's action was not correct. It was done incorrectly, and it just needs to be noted that way. That's all. I want to see it corrected.
It was done incorrectly on advice of this board.
Correctly, yes, that's right. It was done incorrectly by the advice of this board.
So I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-02 for the hiring of Frederick Lawrence Buckner to the position of Planning and Zoning Director effective November 6, 2023, at the agreed-upon salary of $47,000.
Support, Tajer.
Ms. McGuire, who are these 4 people that you mentioned that were discussed in that meeting that you had last fall?
There was no names mentioned.
So
Were you talking to me? I'm sorry.
Yes, I am, Ms. McGuire, yes. So,
No, there was no names mentioned.
so we had 4 board members who allegedly advised Ms. Klein to simply hire him without board approval? Is that what the statement was?
If I might, we have a motion on the table here. I'd like to
Did you call for motion? Call for vote?
call for a vote. Yes.
No, you didn't. Just a point of order, Mr. Supervisor.
I don't really see what that has to do with this motion.
Well, I think it was part of the conversation that we were having here about what occurred and what exactly we're trying to fix. So we talk about history, but we only seem to talk about some history.
Well, on advice of counsel, our attorney wrote this resolution and advised that this is how we handle this moving forward.
Yeah.
So again, I'll refer to my motion to approve Resolution 2402, supported by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
I have one more comment. Just for the record, whatever my vote reflects is nothing against Mr. Buckner or anything like that is mentioned in this resolution. I didn't have a problem with hiring him. It's just the fact that he was hired incorrectly and it needs to be properly corrected.
I think this resolution does that.
It does not.
So roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
No.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is Resolution 2024-03. This relates to the individual authorized to issue municipal civil infractions.
So this resolution will cover, in the past practice, we have done individual, as we hire a different boat launch attendant or planning and zoning director, we have done an individual resolution. After asking the township's attorney for review so I could have Mr. Buckner appointed to do civil infractions, she asked me why we do them individually when it can be done with a resolution for the position. So that's the reason for the list of people who can actually write civil infractions. The only thing I would add is that we add the Parks and Rec Director to this list because he is able to write tickets out at the park if need be.
I would think that's a good idea.
I agree.
Do we have somebody in all of those positions?
We don't have a building official or a deputy civil infraction officer. This is just an in general resolution.
In the future, we could, though.
Just didn't know if I was missing somebody.
This is for civil infractions. Our code violations are handled by the police department.
Yes, yes.
Could you give me a couple examples of a
I was
civil
just gonna
infraction
ask
for
this,
people?
yes. Examples, please.
It would be like improper setbacks. Somebody builds a deck and they build it over on somebody else's property. Or that would be
Not following the site plan.
Oh, okay.
not following the site plan. We actually have one of those that our zoning administrator went out and looked at. The deck is built a foot over on the neighbor's property.
So he would be able to do something about that
So he
instead of
could-
having the police have to do it?
He could write the infraction on that.
I gotcha. Thank
Based
you.
off an ordinance.
That's very helpful.
So I would make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-3 relating to the individuals authorized to issue municipal civil infractions and to include our Old Orchard Park Director in that list.
Support, Tasher.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschenbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. The fourth resolution we are postponing until our next meeting. Next, we come into the other category, which is first is the Oscoda Township Shared Revenue Reimbursement.
Do you want me to discuss this, or do you want to talk about it? Jane?
It doesn't bother me.
So every year, Oscoda gets a share of open close that we do, goes along with our shared services agreement. So our annual revenue last year was $10,825. 23.5% goes to Oscoda, and that amount is $2,543.88. Needs to be paid to Oscoda Township.
Any questions about that?
Does it come from a specific account?
It does. I don't have that.
Opening and closings for the graves.
That's good enough, or is a reference just opening and closing graves account?
Do you need a number?
No, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
As
All
long as
right, well, then I will make a motion to approve the payment of $2,543.88 to Oscoda Township for the Oscoda's share of cemetery revenue.
I'll support that. Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurschenbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Text My Gov.
So Josh, I did reach out to John from TextMyGov today because I know that after our discussions this morning, we had a few questions and needed clarity. But overall, this is TextMyGov is going to address some of the questions that a lot of the citizens have been getting up at public comment. Clayton Jolly comes to mind. Kelly, you have been up there talking about it, of notifications to people when the water, you need to boil your water, or different things like that happen. TextMyGov is something that where you could text and say, hey, what are the election dates for Oscoda Township? And we will be able to design automated responses for you to get answers directly, those type of things. We can put out notifications for water, interruptions and things like that, or tornado warning. I mean, anything actually. I mean, we can designate some different things. The question that was had this morning is who, what access do they have to have and things like that. And after speaking with John, they don't need access to our programs. They don't want to have access. They would be able to upload our data and they would create our own maps for us to be able to go, hey, there's a water break on Hull Island. And you would be able to go out draw a line around all the properties that are signed up to get Text My Gov, and then it would send out an email and say, you need to boil your water. And instead, it will be seconds instead of hours or a half a day of waiting for somebody to hand deliver boil your water notices. It'll be immediate. And that's something that we would do at our end. Or we can even, instead of giving them the backup data to do, they can give us instructions to self-import the data to create our own maps too. And I know that was a huge concern this morning when we were talking about it. They can actually create timestamps so that it could tell you what time we sent out that boil water notice, or, hey, just a reminder, your taxes are due tomorrow, or whatever. Or if you didn't know and you just wanted to text, hey, Oscoda Township, where are you located? Or how do I pay my tax bills? What are the options? Those type of things. Each department would be able to build a database of different easy to answer questions that'll give them an immediate answer instead of having to try to locate it on a website or having to try to figure out where it's at, those type of things. So I know that myself, Josh, and he can speak to the elections benefits of it, and Tim Cummings also sat in on different presentations for it. Mm-hmm. And Tammy was kind enough to sit on the last one and check it out as well.
Yeah, and the nice thing is when you ask questions like how to pay your tax bill, we can build in a link. How do I register to vote? Where are my elections? All of those can be built in, and if there's a link needed for the citizens. So if you don't get out of work until 6, 7 o'clock at night, you can actually jump on there and still take care of business, still get answers around your schedule. If you're seasonal people who go south during the winter, you'll have that option to text in as well and take advantage of those built-in options, whether it's online pay for your bills, getting your election stuff done, your absentee ballot sent to your address in a different state. All those things can be built in for 24/7 answer availability for the citizens.
Who's building those documents?
We provide the data and then they build that in. So when you, like if you texted, how do I register to vote?
Oh, I understand how it
It
works.
would
I'm saying
I
it's
would
gonna
have
give-
it
it's
built
gonna
in, it would give you that link.
It's going to give you a link to a document, and you're saying they're going to generate the document, not us.
No, we would put the link in. So like for voting, you would go to Secretary of State if you're doing it at home and you would log directly in. That link would be there. Or if you wanted to pay tax bills, the link for BS&A would be there. You'd click on it, go in, boom, and you can pay right through the options we have available.
We're going to be doing the majority of it. They'll help us, they'll have support to help us, but they won't have any access to our stuff.
Kind of the same thing we're doing with Tim with the website. We have to give him all the information and then he builds it out for us for each department.
Or we can build it
Except
ourselves.
except I'm not an
But Tim
outside
doesn't have to
entity.
do the work on this one. Yeah, .gov doesn't.
I'm not an outside entity.
So if there's a water main break at 2 o'clock in the morning somewhere, who's the one that would contact them to put that?
They wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't?
No, they wouldn't do it. We would have somebody.
We would have somebody that would have to
have
reach out to
access.
them to tell them that there's a water main break, to put this out on this
No.
system.
No, we do it ourselves.
Who would do that?
Whoever has access to be able to do that.
Would it be Catherine from F&B do that? Would it be,
I would say it would be in-house, somewhere in-house.
I mean, I would say if we're going to
We
do
should
that, we
own
can
it.
take it all the way down to the DPW employees themselves.
Right.
And they could have access to log into it and do it. Not saying I'm for it, I'm just talking
Right.
about the option.
But yeah.
We could build out, the how and who has access basically.
Yeah, we don't have to contact them to do something like that.
yeah,
Would be all
my
in-house.
concern would be to make sure that the notices go out properly. Who would be the first one to get informed that there's a water main break?
Well, I would think it would be Tammy or Tara, because Catherine would be calling Tammy going, hey, we've got a water main break on Hugh Street. They log in, and our map's already drawn, our data, from our data, our map is already created. They draw a circle around it and push the button. Literally, it took them 30 seconds to show me how to do it today.
And the responsible person, then, we're delegating that to the superintendent.
Because I know that she doesn't want a lot of access to certain things like that.
That was a board action when we got this new website. One throat to choke is what I was told.
Yep.
So,
All of the other individual questions, though, I would say would be department head to
Department
create,
heads.
yeah, because it's
Okay.
the information is
That was
gonna
the only one that
change.
concerned me, because that's a public health issue.
Yeah, I don't wanna
And I
mess
want to
around
make
with
sure
that.
that notice would go out in a timely manner. We've had issues about who did this, who did that over this, the Lake Street issue recently, you know,
Right.
and we need to be able to clarify immediately.
Well,
Right.
there is
Get that out
a, there is a
immediately.
state law through the health department that they are required to hand deliver a notice to the residents that are involved.
They
That's
can-
required, they have to hand
Yeah.
deliver those
They
But
notices.
can
this is
do
a
it,
quick
but-
action.
But this would be quicker.
This would be a quick
but
action
wouldn't
to
eliminate-
immediately
it
notify
wouldn't eliminate
people.
that requirement. Those still have to be
Okay.
hand
Right.
delivered.
But, yeah.
I just wanted to put a
But there's
name on it.
nothing.
And
but
then
to
the
Bill's-
residents, and to be clear, the residents would have to sign up for TextMyGov in order to be able to
Okay.
get that service. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the proposal. It is a 2-year proposal. I mean, obviously, it's going to take a while for us to get our different responses, automated responses put in there, those type of things, but they're there for their support. So you can call them, like we call BSNA, and say, hey, listen, I can't get this to do this, or they have recommendations, a list of recommendations for automated responses that are, you know, appropriate, that type of things for different scenarios.
So
The comment I wanted to make was that the hand delivery of the paper or notice doesn't have to be first. It just has to occur. So
has
the
to
text,
occur.
the text can be first to give them the heads up immediately, with the paper copy traipsing in later.
What kind of usage statistics do we get from these people?
Usage statistics?
Yeah, how many people signed up, how many times we've sent out a text, how many times people have clicked on the link for the
There's
text?
We have up
there's an allotment
to
of 10,000.
10,000. We can use up to 10,000 texts.
And there's a-
That's,
Right, that's saying that we have the ability to
Right.
use them.
Yeah.
But where are the usage statistics at the end of the year to say how many of those 10,000 did we actually?
Signed up to
oh,
do
yeah,
this.
they have that. They'll be able to have that.
My question, the reason I'm asking this is because if we turn this on and 4 people use it, it costs us this, X amount of dollars a year. Plus,
Then we
plus
get
the
rid of it.
labor rates, then
Yeah.
we'd have the opportunity to say, okay, well, maybe we should just discontinue that service.
Right,
But
there's
if
no
it's getting
labor rates.
pounded,
No labor rates. It's all inclusive in the cost for the 2 years.
right, for their stuff.
Yeah.
But you guys still have
Oh,
to spend
right.
time on it, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
guys
well-
still have to draw up any documentation, make sure the links point to the right place, make sure those areas are updated on the website at all times so that we don't get any miscommunications again,
Right.
et cetera, so on and so forth. Yeah.
I
So
see.
this is,
Is there any training involved
This is-
in this for?
this is tied into our
Yeah, TextGov will
website.
support you to help you.
Is it
walk
tied to,
through
well,
it
she
all.
just said that it wasn't tied to the website.
No, it'll
It's
just,
completely.
you'll sign up
It's
for
fully,
it.
it's not
So
tied right to
she's
the
saying that
website. It's
if
gonna
somebody
direct you.
says, what are the election days in Oscoda and where do I go? It's going to send them a link based on what they tell them to answer these keywords with, that
Right.
links back to our website that shows, but it's just a link. They're not changing anything on the site. They're not
Right.
going to pull the document off the site and present it as a document. It's just a link.
It just directs
So they're
people to
not,
the
yeah,
link.
And it's
so
gonna
they're,
take
so
them
Revise
directly
would
to their
have.
answer
Yep, It'd
immediately.
be just like if you posted a link to the next board meeting packet on your Facebook page.
Right.
Well, and a big one when we get people trying to book for Old Orchard, because that's all online now, so.
Right.
It's just another one that, for the people who want to use it, and especially our after hours, and then thinking of a lot of our snowbirds that leave, it's a great way if your house is up here and we have a water issue, and you're in Florida, that hand notice is great, but I'm not there.
That's right.
If my water is broke and my pipes are broke, if
Well-
you send me a text in Florida, I can at least call the local handyman and have him get over there and make sure my house isn't flooded.
Right.
So it's just a great thing for the people who want to do it. And
I would
2
say.
years to try it out, look at the data, and that's why we
Yeah.
want to try it, is they will give us that data and let us know how many of our citizens are
Right.
using it.
I think it's going to be not utilized anywhere near as often as you guys think it's going to be. But since you want to
That's
try it, I make a motion to approve the TextMyGov proposal.
Support Sutton.
Yep, we can always cancel it if it's not useful.
That's right.
right.
That's right.
I would prefer if it was a 1-year contract, but they require 2 years, so
Well, that gives us an ample opportunity to make sure that everything is working throughout the
it'll take some
process.
time to put into effect.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is we have an applicant for a vacant spot on the Planning Commission. Mr. Matthew Cleary, his information is in the packet. I would like to make a motion to
Bill,
approve.
just first, full disclosure, Matt Cleary is my brother-in-law.
Okay.
So
By
again,
marriage?
like, well, just like Parker Cleary, who is his son, has worked for the township a couple of times in the past for Jamie's department. And every time, I want to make sure I disclose this and ask the board, do I need to recuse myself from this or not?
I don't think so.
No.
It's not direct relationship, it's a
No,
couple
just
chains down.
Full disclosure there.
I went back and double-checked the Planning Enabling Act for requirements for members of the Planning Commission. There's nothing that restricts somebody from being a family member of a board meeting. What would happen is if Mr. Worcester Barth were to present a request of the Planning Commission, Mr. Cleary would have to recuse himself from voting on that action. So that's the only effect of it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we appoint Matt Cleary to the Planning Commission. Does he have to have been taken somebody's position?
Yes.
He'll be taking
Greg
Mr.
Schultz.
Linderman's position, and his term will be from 12/31 to 12/31/26.
I have a
Ms.
problem
McGuire
with
just
that, but
include in
okay.
her motion that he was going to be taking a different seat?
I thought, yeah, Greg Schultz, isn't he off too?
Yeah, he's both off, and I have a problem with trying to replace Jeff Lindeman specifically because we do have an ongoing situation with Mr. Lindeman. We've only tabled it, we haven't acted on it, we haven't made any decisions. And it's Greg Schultz who actually hasn't applied for reappointment, but Mr. Lindeman did last October. So it should mean that the position that is to be replaced should actually be under
His term
Greg Schultz's
His term
position.
expired December 31st.
It may be,
Right now,
but the
we have
Planning
2 open
Enabling Act
positions.
actually
Okay,
enables Mr. Lindeman to continue his position until he's replaced. But if you're going to choose Mr. Lindeman's position to replace him and not Greg Schultz's, then I think it looks like we're trying to, we're playing tactics on Mr. Lindeman again. And I'm certainly not interested in exacerbating that problem from last December.
Well, my motion is to appoint Matt Cleary to replace Greg Schultz. That's my motion.
I support that.
I just have a question on protocol. Isn't it the superintendent's role to bring the appointment to the board?
I didn't hear that.
Can you say that louder, Mr. Worcester?
Isn't it the superintendent's responsibility, or the supervisor's responsibility to bring the appointment to the board?
It is.
It's his for the appointment of somebody, he's supposed to say that there's a person that has applied, correct?
Yes, and that would be Mr. Cleary. Well, we have a motion on the table. Could I get a roll call, please?
Motion and supported.
Motion, I'm sorry, yeah.
I supported
Motion
it.
by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings.
Oh, I thought it was two. You're in stuff.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
No.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed with Greg Schultz.
I understand.
Mr. Cleary will fill the one seat on the Planning Commission, and we will look for another replacement. Next is our final public comment. If you would like to make a comment, you can speak on any item. Yes.
Good evening, my name is Mary Ed Tooten, and I still live in Oscoda. And this is Chapter 2, referencing my firing from the Economic Improvement Committee. Rather than calling my behavior cancerous for speaking up about an obvious and non-optimal situation, how about asking questions about why the meetings are being canceled? And this story of there's nothing to do is complete nonsense. For example, the bylaws still need to be reviewed. Dave Eiler's term of office was up on December 31st, 2022. That's right, he's been sitting on the EIC for 13 months past his end of term. It is not an automatic renewal. The Board of Trustees needs to approve it, and to date, it has not. It was erroneously stated on the website that his term was up at the end of 2023. Yet, he showed up and chaired the EIC meeting at the beginning of this month, even though without him, there was still a quorum. But Bill Palmer thinks I'm acting super important. Oscoda deserves better. What I thought was most important was getting on the public record the dissatisfaction with the attendance and performance of the Economic Improvement Committee this year, and I chose to do that with a no confidence vote. Unlike in the already decided board action of removing me from the Economic Improvement Committee, Dave would have had an opportunity to explain how he perceived his role as a chair and why we should have confidence in him. Even if he had won the confidence vote, the record would have shown the events leading up to the vote. Unlike with the Township Board, where not only was I not named on the original agenda, but in the proposed minutes, it only shows that I was voted off, no reason given. Someone looking at this in a few months or a few years would have no idea what happened. Bob Tazier's comments were unbelievable. My friend is a developer, therefore I'm not qualified to sit on the EIC. Dave Eiler's father is a developer. I want to thank Bill Palmer and Bob Tazier for removing their hoods and letting us see who they really are. I stand with Pam, and for anyone that does not know, Pam is a black woman. Tazier thought my actions were, and I quote, improper, misconduct, and insubordinate. Eiler was offended. Sutton should have said something as the board liaison. Off with her head, meaning my head. My actions were precisely correct and proper, and included the chair, co-chair, supervisor, and superintendent. It is not misconduct to demand performance from committee members, and it was not at all insubordinate. Plus, I'm a volunteer. I'm not a member of a military organization. It was pretty clear that Bill Palmer and Tammy Klein cooked up my dismissal, and Bill Palmer had asked the board to support him in the action of removing me from the committee, and all but one of you did. In light of what you have heard from me in my defense, would you vote the same way? If not, please ask Bill to reconsider appointing me to the committee. I have sent all of you my application for reappointment. The committee is not supposed to be composed of friends of Tammy and but are supposed to be composed of people who will do right
Is there anybody
by
else who would
Oscoda
like to make
Township.
public comment?
Oscoda deserves better.
Yes, sir. Just state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Russell Williams.
When you get to the podium.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Russell Williams, I live on Loud Drive. I am here tonight, though, as a forester for the Conservation District. I cover both Alcona and Iosco. Just to kind of give the board a brief update, I guess we have been, the district, kicking around trying to get some invasive species control going on out at Riverbank Park. There's a lot of olive and some other things that are becoming a larger problem. But we've had some challenge, of course, getting people willing to get out and climb around and that stuff. So it might be just me until I can talk some other people into it. But just so you know, if you see me out there, that's what I'm doing. And if you have any questions or concerns, certainly get a hold of me, you know. Tammy has my contact info, but you can reach out to the district websites or however. So, just so you know what's going on. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Kelly Brown, Oscoda. Forgot to say Happy New Year to y'all. As we start a new year. A couple prior meetings, I read to you your mission statement. Jeremy Spencer was kind enough to remind everybody on the board that you did adopt this in November of 2020. So today I wanted to bring a couple of things to you about transparency and trust. So for transparency, the first ditty we got is about Josh and Mr. Tazier's expense report. I brought this up. I don't really care what his expense report was about, the amount or pizzas or all of that good stuff. But in your board packet that month, under the financials that you all approved on the consent agenda, and I verified that at 6:05 today before I left the house, you all approved a payment of $355.24, which was the original expense report, and then it was modified because we had the whole discussion about Mr. Linderman's expense report and the daily amount and all of that good stuff. So does anyone know, seeing as how all the board members approved that consent agenda for the wrong amount, does anyone know what check was actually cut? And can we go back and redo the financials so that they are accurate? This continues, and no one on this board takes this seriously. It's not about pulling Bob Tazier's expense report. It's about the fact that this has happened numerous times with Josh Sutton. These are our legal recorded historical documents and financials. There needs to be oversight on Josh Sutton. It has gone on long enough, and the chair must recognize the issues with the return checks that are continuing as of just this past November. I have brought this up and I have asked for a fraud audit, and you have brushed me off, and you have brushed me off, and you have brushed me off. I now will go to the local attorney in the civil district court here and ask them what our next steps are. A writ of mandamus to make him do his job if you, the board, and you, the supervisor, the chair of the board, are not going to fix this. This has been going on for years. Why is this not concerning to anyone on this board? We don't even know where money is. So that's a little transparency and shows a lack of trust that's going on. The next thing I want to talk to you about is Kratos. $42,430.00 is what Kratos cost us. An email, or a letter I should say, was written June 2nd, 2022. Another letter of demand by our attorney, Lisa Hama, was wrote July 22nd, 2022. It said in that letter that if they did not receive the money back, or there was not a formal reply stating what was happening next, this was going to go to court. And nothing has been filed with court. This is another mistake by your clerk. In addition to the minutes from an important, you guys waived attorney-client privilege about how important that ethics hearing was, and there is no minutes in there to tell what it is. It's abhorrent, the job he is doing, and you as a board have items in your board protocol that you can hold him responsible, and you choose to do nothing. Stop doing nothing. Work on behalf of the people that elected you. This has become obscene. We now have, according to Ms. McGuire, we've got a sub-board that's making decisions on their own. I mean, what are you guys doing? Stop this and get back to the business of serving the public and the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, board comments. Mr. Cummings, you have a comment?
Sure. I guess the one item that stands out among several that concerns me the most is the comment that Jamie made in passing that I just don't think was ever really taken up or addressed at all in the conversation about Resolution 2022-02, and that is this conversation that purportedly took place between the superintendent and 4 board members that permitted a bypass of this board and its ability to make a decision regarding the hiring of the planning and zoning administrator, and I'm concerned about that because it directly violates, if it's true, the Open Meetings Act, and not to mention just the subversion of this board. I think it's disgusting. But if it's true, I'd like to know more about that, and that was not something that was permitted to occur in this meeting this evening. It was commented to be ancillary, I think was maybe the word. But I'm very concerned about that point. There we have it. Back to you.
Mr. Spencer? You have a comment?
No, thank you.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes, I would just like to let everyone know that we do have the February 27th election coming up. You should have received your cards for the early voting location and your election day, as well as your absentee applications. You did have to choose a Republican or Democrat ballot due to the proposals that passed during the governor election. I know that was a huge concern to a lot of people. The clerks weren't happy with that. That's not what elections are about. But you do have to check one of those boxes to receive a ballot for either Republican or Democrat. So make sure you do that. If you don't, there's not a ballot that doesn't include those. And if you have any questions, please contact my office and we'll be there to get all that done. Thank you.
Mr. Wishbard?
Yes, Tammy, I'd ask that the attorney be here for the next meeting so we can discuss that resolution, and I'd really like to recap the resolution 2024-2. Ms. McGuire made a few statements concerning Board Protocol .702, and I think she's misstated a few things, as well as the authority that I believe the superintendent has. So I really would like the attorney here, and we can settle this all at one time, in person.
Mr. Taser?
Yeah, first I'd like to address Mr. Cummings' comment. I was one of those persons that was mentioned there, and it was not based on a meeting that we had. I was asked a question that I actually brought up a conversation about. There was many discussions going on about the proper way to hire somebody. We gave Ms. Klein different information several times on direction on how to hire or fire or whatever. That discussion was held. In my thing, I based my reply on that subject on what's in the protocol manual. And I thought reading that section in there that gave her the authority, I thought that I wasn't on this board at that time, but I believe the protocol manual was voted on and approved by this board, and that's what I based my decision on that question. So I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing that I would like to say is that there was discussion tonight about, the public hearing, on the ethics public hearing. One thing I would like to mention on that was that it was said that I wanted to state that public hearing action was the postponement was for any action taken. It was not the conclusion of the report was not questioned. The only thing that was postponed was action on the conclusions of the ethics report by the attorney. So I wanted to make that point out. And that's why I was voted, I'm not opposed to Mr. Cleary at all on the planning commission. My comment was based on that because of the conclusion of that ethics report, in my mind, swayed my vote that I thought that Mr. Cleary should have been replacing Mr. Linderman because of the ethics report. So that's what I based my vote on, and again, it's not an action against Mr. Cleary. It was simply an action based on an ethics report that came out, that I didn't ask for the report, again, that came out and showed conclusions in that report that I have to take that serious. So that's what I based that on. And that's all I have to say.
Ms. McGuire?
I'll go back to, I kind of mentioned we'd had discussions in the past regarding the authorities of the superintendent, and it clearly states in the Charter Act, again, under 41.75A, that the board has to have final say. Tammy is allowed to do the interviewing, do the hiring, but it has to be approved by the board. It's the way we've done it for ever since before I was here. The Charter Act talks about it. It's in the board protocol, like Steve mentioned. It says right in there that she has oversight, but that it's subject to board confirmation. And it says vote upon board. Same all in the 7.02. I also have that email that I mentioned from Steve, because I asked him for clarity, and it outlined the resolution of the duties of the superintendent currently, but it does not give her the authority to do the hiring without board approval. And his last statement to me was also a resolution supersedes any board protocol item. That's fine, but a Charter Act supersedes any resolution by the law.
That's correct.
And the law says the board is to hire the person. The board is the one that hires the superintendent. The board hires anybody else that they deem necessary. So in that instance, Steve, actually, I think you owe me and a few other people on this board an apology for your behavior that night. And there was an error. It wasn't correct. We're trying to fix it now, but I wouldn't mind having the attorney here next time.
Oh, I can't wait. So I think your
That's fine.
interpretation of the Charter Act is different than what our attorney believes it to be and what I believe it to be. So when the attorney is here, Ms. McGuire, we will settle this and have total clarity with
Well,
everybody.
MTA disagrees too, so I got it right from
MTA is
them.
not our attorney.
Well, the attorney doesn't know about the Charter Act in some instances either, so.
We'll have the attorney.
Okay, anything else?
Stop.
With that, I would like to, again, wish everybody a Happy New Year, and I hope we can all go home now and root on the University of Michigan to become national champions.
Wait, another thing I got, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I also want to talk to the fact that the treasurer's office will be closed January 18th and 19th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. Jane and myself, my deputy, will be attending the winter workshop to keep working on our certifications. And we both have to have our points this year to renew, so we both will be attending those two classes, just so you know.
Okay. And with that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Good luck to your team, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Go
And
Blue.
can you lay that down so I don't